Muhammad started with copying all of these legend stories and fables that he heard from people. Remember, Muhammad was working under Khadija, and as a merchant, he had access to many books and stories. And I showed you, I talked to you about a hadith many times over when Muhammad commanded Zayd ibn Thabit to learn the Hebrew and Aramaic Syriac language as soon as possible, because Muhammad said, I'm receiving many books in Hebrew and letters in Hebrew and in the Syriac Lugha Syrianiya, right? So he needed a translator. People like also Waraqah ibn Nawfal, who was helping him. So after Waraqah ibn Nawfal died, supposedly the divine inspiration halted, stopped, and Muhammad became suicidal. You know that story that we can find in Sahih al-Bukhari, right guys? So Muhammad came all these fabrications, legend stories that he heard. He was also called the ear. Remember, we mentioned that the last time. Muhammad, one of his nicknames was the ear, because whenever he heard something, he put it in Quran, he made it Islam. The ear was Muhammad's nickname. So the people of Mecca, his own family, his own tribe, the Quraysh of Mecca, they became suspicious of Muhammad. They said to him, we heard all of these stories before you. You didn't come with anything new. We know about these stories. And Muhammad, whenever they asked him, whenever the Meccans asked Muhammad for miracles and signs, Muhammad said, I am nothing but a warner, right? And Allah refrained from sending me miracles. And you can find this information, for example, chapter 17, ayah 59. But also when Muhammad goes to Medina in chapter 13, ayah 7, the people of Medina, the Ansar and probably the Jews as well, they're asking Muhammad for miracles. Muslims say, well, Muhammad split the moon when he was in Mecca at night. Well, that's a lie. Because else, why in chapter 13, ayah 7, which is a Medina chapter, people still asking Muhammad for miracles, and Allah says, no, I didn't give you any miracle, right? There are some scholars out there who are more honest. They will say, the only miracle that Muhammad was given was the Quran. Muhammad did not perform any miracles. So all these supposed miracles that we can find only in the hadith are nothing but later fabrications that's later Muslims gave to Muhammad. And chapter 17:59, look, and we refrain from sending the miracles, the signs, only because the men of former generations treated them as false. So Allah is saying to Muhammad, tell them, I'm not going to give them miracles, because even if I give you miracles, which is, of course, damage control, Allah didn't give me miracles, because even if I'm going to perform miracles in the name of Allah, you're not going to accept them. So the people, the Meccans, were started to think about, this guy is a scam. He's a scammer. He's a liar. This doesn't make sense. This is not logical. This is not a logical answer. And they said to Muhammad, so how can we believe you or accept you as a prophet of God? These people were not stupid. Do you understand why the family of Muhammad, the majority of the Meccan Quraysh, did not accept Muhammad as a prophet? Only a small group of Muslims accepted him. All right? From all Quraysh of Mecca, only around 70 people, let's say. Right? That's a very tiny, small number. So guys, Islam didn't start because Islam is a truth religion or a religion of the truth. No. Else, why people are not accepting him? If Muhammad was a really real prophet, a true prophet, only a tiny group among the Quraysh accepted him. So when Muhammad went to Medina and he started to grow an army, and he came back with an army of at least 10,000, Islam then was spread by force, by the sword. Convert or else. That's what Islam is. Islam doesn't mean peace. Islam means surrender to the will of Muhammad and Allah. That's what it means. Islam didn't grow because of the truth. Islam grew only by the sword. There was a guy called Nadir bin al-Harith. He was among the leaders, the most nobles of the Quraysh of Mecca, right? And he was like Muhammad, he was a merchant. He used to travel a lot to other countries, and when he used to come back, he used to tell beautiful stories like Muhammad. He was a storyteller like Muhammad. And he used to say, this Nadir ibn Harith, who was, as you see here, killed, they cut his head off. Ali bin Abi Talib, the cousin of Muhammad, as you see here, cut the head of Nadr ibn al-Harith, because Muhammad, after becoming strong enough, he ordered him to be killed. And they literally cut off his head. I mean, this is the peaceful Islam. For you, your religion. For me, my religion, brother. Yeah. We respect all religions. That's what Muslims of today say. What respect for other religions, you liars? The moment they are in power, that's what will happen to the people who criticize Islam and Muhammad. This is the true face of Islam, not this peaceful, sugar-coated version here in the West that Muslims try to sell you. He was criticizing Muhammad, this Nadr ibn Harith, and Muhammad ordered him to be among the first people to be killed. And Ali ibn Abi Talib cut off. He executed him on the spot. He killed him. He took his head off, as you see on the picture. And Muslims are not afraid to make beautiful pictures about it. Look, this is Muhammad here. You see that? This is Muhammad. And here we see Ali with a sword cutting off the head of Nadr ibn Harith. This Ibn al-Harith, like I said, he was a traveler and he visited countries like Persia, and he learned stories of some Persian kings such as Rustum and Ispandiyar. Yeah. So he was learning stories like Muhammad. He heard these stories. He was a storyteller. He was a merchant. These merchant people, guys, like Muhammad, they used to travel. They used to have access to many books, other storytellers. And when they came back to Mecca, they used to tell stories. So when this Nadr ibn al-Harith, when he was alive still, and Muhammad was without power, he found that Muhammad called himself, he proclaimed prophethood. He said, I'm a prophet of Allah. I'm the final prophet. My name is Muhammad. My name used to be Qutham ibn Abdullah, but now my name is Muhammad ibn Abdullah. I'm the final prophet of Allah, brother. I'm receiving divine inspiration. Accept me as a prophet. So when he heard that Muhammad was telling about his Quran, this guy was making fun of Muhammad. He said to the people when he was listening that Muhammad was also a storyteller like him, he himself used to tell also stories when the Quraysh used to gather that he learned in Persia, for example. He said, by Allah, and he challenged Muhammad, by the way. He said, by Allah, who can tell better tales, better stories than me? I, Nadr ibn al-Harith, or Muhammad? So finally, when Muhammad came back with an army, he came back from Medina, he conquered Mecca, he captured another, and Muhammad Rasulullah, may Allah prayer and peace be upon him, his head to be cut off before him. And as you see here, like I mentioned, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of Muhammad, cut his head off. But before this incident, this Nadr ibn Harith was commanded by the other leaders of the Quraysh to go to Medina to get some questions, because who can set a trap for Muhammad better than the Jews, right, guys? The Jews, they knew their Hebrew Bible inside out. So the Meccans were geniuses, like the Jews of Mecca. They sent Nadr ibn al-Harith among some other guys as well, but Nadr ibn al-Harith to go to Medina and get 3 questions to examine Muhammad. This is why I chose today's topic. Muhammad failed his exam, his Jewish Meccan exam. So the Jews of Medina came with 3 questions. They cooked up 3 questions to examine him, to test him. If Muhammad is a true prophet of God, as he claims, if he can deliver, because he claims that he's receiving divine inspiration from Allah through Jibreel, then he's for sure a true prophet. The Jews of Medina, together with the Meccans, they set a trap. So Muhammad didn't realize that the Jews of Medina, together with the Meccans, cooked up 3 questions, and they set a trap for Muhammad. He never saw it coming. The Jews of Medina, guys, the rabbis, were geniuses, and they knew that Muhammad was a false prophet, of course, and they went back to their Hebrew Bible. I mean, what's the best way to set a trap for Muhammad? Well, by going to the Hebrew Bible. The Jews of Medina went specifically to the book of Daniel. If we go to Tafsir ibn Kathir first, guys. Tafsir ibn Kathir, ayah 1 to find some information. You will literally laugh about what happened with Muhammad. We go down in Tafsir ibn Kathir for chapter 18, ayah 1. We see some information that we can find in Ibn Kathir. Look, guys, the reason why this surah, Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18, was revealed was because of people like Nadir ibn Harith, as you see. Read with me, guys. Muhammad ibn Ishaq mentioned the reason why the surah was revealed. The historian, right, Muhammad ibn Ishaq. He said that an old man from among the people of Egypt who came to some 40 odd years age ago told him from Ikramah from Ibn Abbas. I mean, these are not jokers in Islam, right? This is Ikramah and this is Ibn Abbas. Ikramah and Ibn Abbas himself, Turjuman al-Quran, Habr al-Ummah, the scholar of the Ummah, the cousin of Muhammad, who said, the Quraysh sent Nadir ibn Harith and Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt to the Jewish rabbis of Medina. It's like I told you earlier, right, guys? So Nadir ibn Harith went to the Jews, the rabbis of Medina. They told him about, there is a guy called Mohammed. He's one of us. He's from the Quraysh. And he claims that he is getting divine inspiration from Allah through Jibreel. He talks about some guy who's Jibreel. And Jibreel is giving him his divine inspiration. And he was squeezing him in Cave Hira, claiming that he's getting divine inspiration. And he's a storyteller like me. All right? Like Nadir ibn Harith. And he claims to be a prophet. I don't believe it. But please give us some information to set a trap for him, basically. So here, as you see, Nadir ibn Harith went to cook a plan together with the Jews of Medina to set a trap for Muhammad. So he gave the description to the Jews, the Jewish rabbis, and tell them what he's saying. So Nadir ibn Harith, together with the Jews of Medina, are cooking a plan, a trap for Muhammad so he can fall in it. They are the people of the first book, right, of the Torah, right, the Hebrew Bible. Who? The Jews of Medina. And they have more knowledge of the prophets than we do. Prophets like Daniel. So they set out, and when they reached Al-Madinah, so when this group of the Quraysh, among them was Nadir ibn Harith and Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt, they asked the Jewish rabbis about Muhammad. Aywa. Exactly. They described to him to them, and they told him, they gave him some details about Muhammad. He claims to be a prophet, like I said earlier, and said, you are the people of the Torah. You Jews of Medina, you are the people of the Torah, and we have come to you so that you can tell us about this companion of ours. They, the rabbi, said, ask him about 3 things. 3 questions. If he cannot answer, he's a fraud. If he can give you the correct answers for our questions, then he's truly a prophet of God. The Meccans, together with the Jewish rabbis of Medina, came up with 3 questions. Among the 3 questions was, what is the ruh? What is the spirit, Ya Muhammad? Question number 1, what is the spirit, Ya Muhammad? Do you think Muhammad could answer correctly, guys? Did he know how to answer what is the spirit? No, of course not. No, he failed. Why? Because if we go and see, when they asked him, what is the ruh, Ya Rasulullah? Muhammad failed because he never told us what the spirit is. Later scholars, later Muslims said, well, we know that the Quran doesn't say that the ruh is Jibreel, but we think it is Jibreel. But it's a lie because Muhammad, look, said the following in chapter 17, ayah 85. He said, the Jews and the Meccans, they ask you about the spirit, about the ruh. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. What is the spirit, Ya Rasulullah? Say, so Allah is telling him supposedly, through Jibreel, say, Ya Muhammad, the spirit comes by the command of my Lord. You have been given very little knowledge. I mean, what is this answer? This is not an answer, Ya Rasulullah. So Muhammad, guys, had no answer. So first answer, failed. For some reason, I always forget this important detail. When the Quraysh asked him these 3 questions, Muhammad didn't give immediately the answer. Why? Because Muhammad failed to say inshallah. Look, right? When they came to ask him, Muhammad said, come back tomorrow. I will give you the answer tomorrow. But Muhammad forgot to say inshallah. He forgot to say if Allah wills. So Allah embarrassed him in front of his own family in front of the Quraysh, his own tribe. Come back tomorrow, brother. But Allah never answered. They had to wait for 15 long days. For 15 long days, no answer. You claim that Jibreel will come to you with 3 answers for our 3 questions. The next morning when they came to ask him to get the answers, Muhammad said, sorry. I have no answers. Why, Ya Rasulullah? You promised us. You claim to be a true prophet. Give us the answers. You claim to be the final prophet, the seal of all the prophets, and you have a huge mole on your back. Ya kadhab ibn kadhab. You're a fake. You're a fraud. So Muhammad told them to come back after 15 days. So for at least 2 weeks, no answers. Finally, after trying to get some answers, he said, yeah, okay, now I have answers. And the first, like I said, what is the ruh? Give us the answer, Ya Rasulullah. The answer was, I don't know. Basically, I don't know. Little knowledge was given. I mean, where's the answer? What is the ruh, Ya Rasulullah? What is the spirit? No answer. Only small knowledge. But we know, if we study the Bible carefully, guys, we know the answer. Because the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of God Himself. It's God Himself, the Holy One, right? Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh is the Holy Spirit of God that is responsible for inspiring the prophets. Prophets like Moses, right? Etc., etc. Muhammad had no answer. He didn't know the Bible. He never read the Bible. He never read the Hebrew Bible. He had no idea what the Spirit was. So, question number 1, no answer. Huge F for the first question. Question number 2, what about the young men? Who are they? That was the question number 2, right, guys? Who are the young men? About the young men, who are they? Let's see if Muhammad could answer the question. About the young men, who are they? If we go to chapter 18, ayah 9 and onwards, we see that Muhammad's answer for the young or the youth is the sleepers. The sleepers inside the cave. Not cave Hira, by the way, but in the sleepers of Ephesus. Muhammad literally went to the Christians. I mean, remember, these are the Jews. Jews of Medina. They ask you about their Hebrew Bible. What did Muhammad do? Muhammad went to a Christian folktale, a fairy tale created by a Christian before Muhammad, and he came up with the 7 sleepers story, which was literally written by a Christian monk, a Christian patriarch to be specific, and he wrote a story, right? A folktale about 7 sleepers, the 7 sleepers of Ephesus. These were this was a fairy tale about 7 Christians who were being persecuted by the pagan Romans, the Greek Romans, right? And they went inside the cave and they took refuge inside the cave. You see Muhammad stealing it from the Christians, which is a man-made story. And he said, well, the young men are these Christians who went inside the cave and they hid, and Allah made them sleep for many years. Yeah, it's a very long story, as you see here. The Jews are asking about their Hebrew Bible, remember? Muhammad went to the Christians and he stole, he borrowed, he plagiarized the 7 sleeper tale, folk tale, right? And he said, well, yeah, Allah made them sleep for many years. And he even put a dog, and I don't know exactly the number. Some people will say, well, they were 3, and the 4th was their dog, their chihuahua. Ow, ow, ow. And some will say they are 5, their dog is the 6th. I mean, this is a disaster, Muslims. Your prophet is all over the place. I mean, these are Jews. They ask you about the Hebrew Bible, about the Tanakh, and you come up with a Christian folktale? No answer. Failed miserably again. He can't even give the correct answer because he heard from here and there. Well, there was this. Maybe you can use this, O Rasulullah, to finally give the answer and to please the ears of the Meccans and the Jews. But Muhammad, as you see in front of you, he failed miserably. 15 days and he came with this answer. I don't want to go too much into the corruption, but actually this is even the word kalbahum is the wrong word, because the scribes who wrote the ayah down, they made a mistake. It should be kali ahum, 2 dots instead of 1 dot. But that's a topic for maybe another time. So it was actually an angel. The guardian was an angel. He was hearing it and making Quran, claiming that it's divine inspiration. Do you understand why the Jews and the Meccans rejected him? Because he failed. There is nothing called Allah, guys. Muhammad is Allah and Allah is Muhammad. There is no divine inspiration. Muhammad is a fraud. He embarrassed himself. So only idiots follow such a false prophet. And Muhammad was certainly not the first or last prophet, false last prophet. Because the Bible warns us against false prophets who come as wolves in sheep's clothing, right, guys? The Lord warned us against false prophets. We didn't need any prophets when Jesus said on the cross, it's finished. So you see, Muhammad went to a Christian tale, a Christian man-made tale that was written and very famous before Muhammad was even born. And Muhammad literally plagiarized it and said, well, the 7 sleepers, that's your question right there. The young men are the 7 sleepers of Ephesus. Really, Muhammad? Really? You fail miserably. But actually, the real answer that the Meccans and the Jews were looking for, the real answer we find in the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, and specifically Daniel 3 in front of you. The Meccan rabbis together with, the Jewish rabbis of Yathrib, at that time it was Yathrib, the Jews of Medina, together with the Meccans, they were seeking for the 3 Jewish youths that are mentioned in Daniel 3, and specifically verses 16 to 28, as you see in front of you. Most of you should know about the story of King Nebuchadnezzar, who commanded his people to create a golden image to be worshipped, right? And he commanded everybody to bow down and worship this golden image. But the 3 Jewish youths, who were basically the slaves at that time, they did not want to do that. They didn't want to basically commit shirk, because the Jews only worshipped one God, the God of the Old Testament, Jehovah. So what did King Nebuchadnezzar do, the Assyrian king? He threw them inside the fiery furnace, as you see here. Look, here we have the 3 youths, the Jewish youths, and we even know their names, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Sorry if I'm butchering the names, guys. And their Babylonian names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those are the more famous names of these 3 Jewish youths. Those are the names that the Jewish rabbis were seeking for. They knew exactly how to set a trap for Muhammad. The answer is in the book of Daniel. But Muhammad never read the Bible, guys. So he got destroyed. So as you see, if we continue reading the story in the Bible, in the book of Daniel, we see that Jesus, before the incarnation, Jesus himself went into the fiery furnace and he saved them. They were never burned. They came out alive. 3 people were thrown in, 4 came out, and we believe that it was Jesus himself before the incarnation, as you see, guys. 3 Jewish youth and Jesus, who was taking care of them, because God of the Bible made sure to protect his people, right, guys? God of the Old Testament, he said, I'm going to protect my family. So that's the answer. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Muhammad never mentioned these names. Instead, he mentioned about the 7 sleepers. What have this Christian folktale to do with the 3 Jewish youths? So, question number 2 also failed. So, question number 3. When they asked him, and they ask you about Dhul Qarnayn. What or who is Dhul Qarnayn? And this last question, guys, today made that awesome gentleman leave Islam today, a couple hours ago. He left Islam because of this question, basically, right? As I promised, I left Islam. That's why he left Islam. And this is the direct reason why I went live. Pray for this awesome gentleman, guys, this ex-Muslim. Glory to Christ. Pray for him that he, after leaving Islam, he will accept Jesus. The answer, after 15 days, as mentioned, after 15 days, Muhammad said, well, Dhul Qarnayn, let me tell you about him. Okay, Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad, who is Dhul Qarnayn? Well, he started talking about him in chapter 18 and how he went. And, all of you know about the sun setting in a muddy spring. He was traveling and he saw the sun go inside the muddy spring, which is basically one of the reasons why Ali Dawah said, all the scientific miracles are now debunked.
I mentioned that the scientific miracles in the Quran got debunked. And for some odd reason, funnily enough, like as if they thought that it was a slip of the tongue. I'll repeat it again, very carefully. The scientific miracles argument in the Quran got debunked.
I wonder why Ali Dawah said it. Sun going inside a muddy spring? Yes. Dhul Qarnayn saw it. He saw the huge sun going inside a muddy spring, yes. And who is Dhul Qarnayn, Ya Rasulullah? Well, Dhul Qarnayn, this and that. Dhul Qarnayn, brother. Who is Dhul Qarnayn, Ya Rasulullah? Well, he must be Alexander the Great. That we can find in the Romans of Alexander the Great, which was written way before the time of Muhammad. In Syriac, for example, right? In the Syriac and Greek copies of the legend of Dhul Qarnayn, the Alexander Great, Alexander Romance specifically, it's called the Alexander Romance, we find the two horns mentioned. The two-horned guy. Muhammad got it from there. But the Jews are not asking you about Alexander the Great that you can find in the Alexander Romance that we have Syriac and Greek copies of. You are the ear, we know that, but don't embarrass yourself like that. So according to Muhammad, is a person. Dhul Qarnayn is a person. So Allah gave him supposedly authority in the land and bestowed him the means of everything and whatnot. And he even, this same Alexander the Great, guys, he went, he found the sun. حتى إذا بلغت مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حامئة. He saw the sun going inside the muddy spring. So Alexander the Great, who is called Dhul Qarnayn, the two-horned guy. This is what Muhammad came up as answer for the final question, the third question. You see here, guys, as you see, if we go, we see that this is a very famous man-made story about Alexander the Great, which existed before Islam. Muhammad literally is copying, as the ear himself, copying these stories and making it Quran and saying to the Quraysh of Mecca and the Jews, well, this is your answer right there. Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad, is this your answer? That's not the answer. Yes, Muhammad got the answer wrong again because he was always borrowing man-made stories, fairy tales, and legend stories. Do you understand why Muhammad was always accused in the Quran to be stealer of stories? We heard these stories before, Ya Muhammad. This is why they used to accuse of Muhammad of being a liar, the ear, the fabricator. You're a liar, you're a storyteller. You are a sha'ir majnoon. One of the nicknames, guys, of Muhammad was sha'ir majnoon. The ear, idhan in Arabic. The ear in Arabic, idhan. But he's also called sha'ir majnoon. Mad poet. You're a mad poet, Ya Muhammad. Specifically, when you call someone majnoon, that means he's possessed by jinn. And we know Muhammad was possessed by demons, right, guys? Why did he fail question number 3? Well, because the Jews, the rabbis of Medina, they didn't ask about one person. They asked about 2 persons, and specifically 2 kings who rule under one empire, and specifically the kingdoms of Medo-Persian Empire. There were guys, the Jewish rabbis were asking Muhammad of Medina, they were asking Muhammad about the Medo-Persian Empire, as you see here, that used to rule these lands here that you see here, guys, this entire land in red, between 539 and 331 BC before Christ. This is the answer. This is the answer. Not Dhul Qarnayn, not Alexander the Great. Yeah, liar. You are a daif, fake prophet. And we can find this information also again, where else? In the book of Daniel. Do you see how easy it is for the Jews? Because the Jews, they knew Muhammad never read their Hebrew Bible. So they went back to the book of Daniel again, and specifically Daniel 8, to get there the questions from. Look, in verse 3, right? And this is in the, Daniel is getting a vision, right, guys? He's getting a vision from God. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram. A ram, listen carefully, guys. Book of Daniel is very specific, very detailed, which had 2 horns, Dhul Qarnayn. There you go. So Muhammad thought Dhul Qarnayn is one person, but no, it's not to one person. The Dhul Qarnayn, guys, of the Bible, the 2 horns are what? Let's see what they are. You see here, because Muhammad was always talking about Jibreel, guys. Muhammad was always talking about Jibreel. Here, there you go, Gabriel, right? Who came to teach Daniel what this vision is. Oh, angel Gabriel, the real Gabriel, not the fake one. Not this fake one, the Islamic one. The real Gabriel of the Bible is now giving the answer to Daniel. And what are the 2 horns? These are the kings of Media and Persia. Boom, boom. This is the answer. The correct answer was that the rabbis of Medina were looking for was this in front of you. This here in front of you. That's the answer. If Muhammad didn't fail and he was a true prophet, he would have given the right answer. So strike number 3. You're out, Muhammad. Every question he failed.